All right, class. So, welcome to topic 5.2. We're going to be covering settlement patterns and survey methods. So, we're going to jump into rural geography, yes, farmland, villages, and land surveying. And it might sound a little old school, but this stuff really shapes how land is used today and even here in South Florida. So, we're going to look at how different cultures settle in rural spaces and how land is divided, labeled, and passed down. All right, so we're going to start with the basics. Rural land use is influenced by physical geography. So things like climate, soil, topography, and also by cultural practices. This is why rice is big in Southeast Asia and cattle ranching rules in the American West. Farmers generally fall into two groups. So you have substance farming, and you grow just enough food for your family, common in developing countries, and you have commercial farming. And this is where you grow for sale and profit. So it's common in more areas that are developed in the US. And this is the foundation for why land is used the way it is in different places. All right. So on the next few slides, we're going to talk about rural we're going to talk about how people physically settle on a land. So there are three major rural settlements or patterns, and we have clustered, dispersed, and linear. So these patterns help us to understand how rural communities function, share resources, and evolve. So first up is called clustered settlements. So clustered settlements mean that the houses and buildings are all grouped together. So think of it like a small town center. Why a cluster? Safety, access to services, and social interaction. You see this a lot in Europe, even in small towns in Florida's interior, where places where community life is very tight knit. Next up, we have linear settlements, and linear settlements are arranged in a line. They usually follow a road, a river, or a valley, and this is set up in a way that makes transportation and access to water easy. So you'll notice linear patterns along the U.S. Route 1, or older riverfront towns in South Florida. And this is like super practical in areas where geography channels kind of develop. Right, and last, you have dispersed settlements. So, dispersed settlements mean that homes are spread out. They're usually on a large parcel of farmland, and this is more common in places where land is abundant. And agriculture is mechanized. In the US, you'll see this more in the Midwest. In Florida, you'll see this in central ranchlands kind of area, and they show a dispersed pattern. The downside to this is you have limited access to schools, healthcare, or shopping. The upside is you can ride your tractor in for breakfast. All right, so we have types of villages. So we're going to go deeper into how villages are organized. So rural villages vary depending on culture and physical geography. Linear villages often built along rivers or roads. Cluster villages are formed at crossroads or due to shared needs. Round villages or runlings are circular layouts around a central area. While walled villages are built with walls for defense. They're common in historic Europe. And then grid villages are planned out with modern and organized design. So think of like Coral Springs. It's very grid based and everything has its own place. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and talk about survey methods and how people settle. So we're going to talk about how land is actually divided. And this matters for property rights, farming, and infrastructure. And there are three major systems. So first you have meets and bounds, long lot, and township range. These are systems that come from different colonial influences and shaped on how rural land is organized today. So on this one, you're going to do this video as one of your bell ringers. So I'm not going to play it in here, but I am going to talk about it a little bit. So we're going to break down the rural land survey system, and so that we can actually understand what they look like in a landscape. So meets and bounds, and this is like the OG British system. It uses physical landmarks like trees, rivers, boulders, and that's used to mark property boundaries. It was common in the original 13 colonies. It was part of when it was part of the South, parts of the South, sorry. And then the problem with this is that landscapes change. A river can shift, trees can fall over, and that creates confusion and boundary disputes. So some weird looking uneven plots of land have been a result of these weird meets and bounds type of systems. We also have long lot system, and this is introduced by the French, especially in areas like Quebec and Louisiana. This system divides land into long, narrow strips, each touching a river, a road, or a canal. And the idea was fairness. Everyone got an equal access to water, transportation, and so on. So if you're ever like cutting a cake into narrow slices from the center, you've done a long lot style planning. It means everybody gets a piece of everything. The last one is Township Range, and this is looks really organized. It's grid based system that's created in the U.S. A government by to divide land as people move westward. Everything is more squared out into townships, so 6 miles by 6 miles, and then divided into 1 mile sections. And this made selling and managing the land way easier. So you'll see this system across most of the western United States. It creates a very straight and evenly sized property lines. So if you're looking at a map and you see like everything to the east kind of looks all jumbled up and like kind of like weird formations, but then you start to move out to the west and everything looks really nice and neat and boxy. That's because at that point the government started to plan everything out and make it look a lot neater and cleaner, and it was easier to plot it out and actually see it on a map like that. So each system reflects a different time, a place, and purpose, and they're still all have an impact in rural land use patterns today. All right, so where these systems came from, the meets and bounds was introduced by the British, and it was used in the original 13 colonies. And it's all about landmarks being used as trees, rivers, and rocks. And that was in that kind of like reddish, pinkish area you see right there. Then you have the long lot. This was introduced by the French colonists, and especially near Quebec and Louisiana, which is down in that sort of teal area that you can see kind of in the middle on the bottom a little bit, and then you see it up at the top at where it meets Canada. And then the township ranges, which is where the U.S. organized everything nice and neat and cleanly, and those are the and those are the like the nice like orangey peachy kind of colors. All right, so meets and bounds. It's descriptive and landmark based. So from the oak tree, 200 feet to the stream, it's kind of poetic, but it's problematic because landmarks change, trees die, and that kind of makes ownership of things unclear. So this is why it's led to a lot of disputes and irregular shapes as far as all of the states, cities, even property lines. The long lot system gave each farm a long strip of land stretching back from a river, a road, kind of like pizza slices or a cake, and everyone got access to water, which was crucial for survival and trade. So the French settlers used this a lot in Canada and Louisiana. It promoted fairness and water access. It wasn't the most efficient, but it was fair, if that makes sense. All right, so township and range is a total grid system. The government laid out perfect 6 by 6 square miles. Each square was broken into sections and quarter sections. Farmers could buy plots of land based on this layout. So kind of like the Homestead Act of 1862, it made buying and managing land easier, but it ignored natural geography. So this method led to dispersed settlement patterns, where we see much or see across much of the U.S. in the West. All right. So, and here is an example on here. Near Eugene, Oregon, you can literally see a 6 by 6 mile grid in the road and the property boundaries. It looks like a checkerboard from above, and this made selling land very efficient. It also created a one size fits all problem in the area with mountains, rivers, and forests. All right, so that's it for 5.2. Make sure you are doing your lesson reviews and doing your bell ringers. So, other than that, I will hope to see you guys soon in class, and make sure you're on top of everything you need to do.